Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast by fans for fans, where all the content is absolutely free. Coming to you in association with Forrest Precision Engineering. I'm your host tonight, Brian Archer, and as always, we'd encourage you to get onto the Gersnet website and check out our forums for all your latest Rangers news and discussion. We're live tonight on the YouTube channel, and we would ask that you continue to share the pod on social media, spread the word, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Before I introduce my guest for tonight, I need to give another mention to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a Glasgow-based engineering company who have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for a number of years, and we're delighted to have them supporting the pod. If you want more information about them, please visit their website at www.forestprecisioneng.com. They also have a stunning executive lounge in the Ibrox main stand. For more information on that, email the club at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Right now, to bring my guest joining me tonight is Ben Harshaw. Ben, how's things?
Yes, not too bad, Brian. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this therapy session, as it were, and as always, plenty to talk about in the world of Rangers.
Yeah, I think it will be a bit of a therapy session if I'm honest. We'll start by going over the game on Tuesday night against Dundee, last game at Ibrox for the season. First thing I get your thoughts on was the team selection. It's a bit of a difficult one for the manager at the minute to have any sort of consistency in selection, just given how many injuries we've got. But there was a few notable changes with Raskin coming in and also Leon King getting his first start for many a months. Were you expecting to see more of the youngsters features with the league now going in the upcoming cup final?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you said there, it is a tough one for the manager, given the amount of injuries and he doesn't know what team he's going to have from one week to the next, basically. So he was very limited in some areas. I mean, centre half wise, he basically played the only two centre halves that he had available to him. Um, I actually probably expected Robbie McCrory to get a run out in that game, just with a view to the future and having a look at him again. But I can understand again, you want consistency and you want leadership, and maybe Butland is one of the few within the squad right now who's showing that. So I understand that. But yeah, I expect from now on the league is done officially, sadly. But I expect from now on, tomorrow's game for us to really make some changes and not risk anything further with the cup final ahead, but also give players a chance that they haven't had, and we've given the same players chances time and again. Maybe it's time for fresh blood.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll come on to kind of talk about tomorrow's game and what lineups we expect. But in terms of the Dundee game, for the first time in a few weeks, we didn't do our usual calamity moment in the first minutes and give up a golden opportunity for the opposition to score. So I was kind of hopeful that we were going to be putting a real good performance in that first half, and with the pressure off, we would see a bit of entertaining football and score a few goals. Now it may have turned out that way, but it certainly didn't start like that. And that first half, for large spells of that, to me, it just felt disjointed and a bit shapeless. I mean, outside of the goals we conceded, which we'll talk about, but was that overall first half performance giving you real concerns?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like a lethargic performance, and it wasn't what I expected because I expected a reaction. Maybe that's wrong of me. Maybe we've seen this movie far too many times to really realistically expect that reaction. But I did expect the players to turn up. The pressure's off, as you say. The pressure was off the end of last season, and we put in some good performances towards the end of last season. But that's one thing that I would accuse some of these players of is they do turn up when it doesn't matter. So maybe I expected that again a little bit more. I expected some of the players I expected a higher tempo because I expected the players to want to go out the last game of the season and impress, and also I expected maybe I'm not I am singling them out a little bit, but I expected more from Tav. I expected real leadership there. I'm not one of these. Tav, I like Tav. I would like to keep Tav. But I expected him to kind of drive the standards and drive the tempo within the game, and it didn't feel like he did that. I felt it was a damning, indictment on the players when really, you've got a young player like Ross McCausland was the only really one with Ridvan maybe as well, who was the only one to really set the tempo to really take the game, albeit a 2-0 down. take the game to the opposition, and have any purpose and drive. And it was like he was one who, for me, he has something to prove continually, but he is playing, he's trying things, he's trying to make things happen. He's playing like somebody who, has something to prove, and they all should be right now. They all should be going out there like it's their audition for next season, or it's their last game, or it's the most important game is the next game. And it's a shame that tempo is not. You've got a player like Fabio Silva on the other side who just floats about the game doing nothing for me in that first half particular. And then you have a player that's unheard of a year ago for many, who makes things happen. And he's far from perfect either, but that's what you should be seeing from your leaders, not from your young player who's just made his first breakthrough season.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about Tav, that you kind of look to him to drive us on, and he wasn't really doing it. Do you think we kind of look to Tav by default because he's done it so often, but when he's not having his best game, there's nobody that digs him out of a hole, but he's always the one to dig the team out of a hole when it needs a special free kick or a special assist. More often than not, he comes up with the goods, but when he's off his game, there's nobody else that pulls him out of a hole.
No, 100%. Like I said, I'm just touching about it. As captain, you are going to look to him, but I am not criticising his contribution overall, and I'm not. And he has given us more than he should from right back, in terms of digging us out and in terms of those performances. But I just feel like as the captain in a game like that, the league's gone. You should be going out there playing with freedom, and he should be then driving standards. I'm not necessarily saying he should be the one in every game to score 2 goals, to score a free kick, to set up. But for me, he should be making sure that somebody else is stepping up. He should be getting about the players a bit more. But I agree with you completely. There isn't anyone else that does it, and far, far, far too many times it is on our right back, and it is on Tav. And for the over the piece, he has, for the most part, stepped up and done it. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting next season to see what kind of role Tav plays. I think it's also important to remember that he is getting on in years, and we can't be expecting a right back to be posting the kind of numbers that we've seen from him forever. That's just not going to be the case. But as that first half went on, I kind of felt like we'd seen this movie before almost all season. It was a bit disjointed. We passed up a golden opportunity that Ross McCausland had to score when he went 1-on-1. I thought it was, really should be doing better. Cut him a bit of slack, given that he's still a youngster and kind of still finding his feet in the first team, really. But passed up a good opportunity to go take the lead, and then we concede really sloppy goals that we've seen all season. Without getting the goals in too much detail, it's just more defensive horror shows, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a complete lack of organisation, and as you say, we've seen it time and again. I can not excuse it, but I can kind of understand it to a certain extent, given that Leon King's come in from the cold. Ben Davis, he's played the last couple of games, but he also hasn't played much football, and quite frankly, isn't the answer. But still, it's basic defensive principles that we should be able to be organised enough to not be conceding. But it's also what concerns me, and I'm sure you're probably going to go on to it, is it's about the character and the mentality. Is okay, any team can concede a goal, but let's not fall to pieces and concede that second goal immediately. Let's say, all right, let's regroup. We're at home. We're 1-0 down to Dundee. It's not ideal. It's not the end of the world, though. We can still take control of this game, not let them score again another 2 minutes or whatever it was, and then really put yourself in trouble. And not every game you're going to come back and score 5 goals,
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it, there. We not only concede one, but it's been almost a habit this season of we concede one, and then shortly afterwards we concede 2, and it looks like we're about to fall to pieces. We've seen it against Ross County away. We've seen it now twice against Celtic this season that I can remember, one at Ibrox and one at their place last week. Is the mentality issue in this squad one of the biggest things that the manager needs to address in the summer, not just bringing in a whole raft of new players, but there's going to be players in this squad that are going to stay. We can't get rid of everybody. I know it's tempting to say, get rid of a lot of them, let's bring all new players in. That's not realistic. There's going to be players that played the other night and that are in this squad that are going to be with us next season and they're going to have to contribute. But the manager's got some big work to do in terms of the mentality of those players, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And funny, prematurely, I felt that we had turned the corner from when the manager came in. Our mentality, we did seem like we were finding ways to win games and finding ways to get the job done. Sadly, that's tailed off. But there is going to be it's a huge issue for us, and there's a lot of work to be done within it. I think when you've had the same nucleus of players for so long, and they have failed for the large part, you do need the fresh blood. You're not, as you say, you're not going to be able to get rid of them all, as much as sometimes we would like to. But there is a sort of rot that can set in terms of mentality, and standards can have reached a certain level and don't seem to be able to currently get above that level and stay. We can get above that level, sorry, but we can't stay above that level. We can perform. But I feel that yes, we need to make big changes there. But I haven't listened to the manager lately. I do feel that he is probably the man to be changing things in terms of mentality, and I think he is well aware of the problems that are there. And is becoming more and more aware. I think. So it might sound ridiculous, and I tend to say ridiculous things, but I think we wanted to win the league. Don't get me wrong, but it started wonderfully. Had it gone that way for the rest of the season, would have been brilliant. Would have won the league. We'd all be thrilled, but would have been paper over in the cracks a little bit. Did the manager need to see the mentality? Did he need to see what the problems are for the bigger picture, for the long term?
Yeah, I think he's now seeing what we've seen for the last 2 or 3 seasons in terms of the mentality of the squad and their ability to just crumble when the pressure's really on. And as we've seen in recent weeks, once we go 2 down, we actually start to come into the game. We get a goal back just before half time. Nice goal from McCausland. But again, why does it take us going 2-0 down before we start playing?
Yeah, $1 million question, isn't it? It shouldn't. It shouldn't take. We should be playing from minute one. And again, does it come back to mentality? Quite possibly. It like something needs to wake us up. And that shouldn't be the case. We should be able to go in there and dominate games against teams like Dundee, with respect to them. From minute one, we looked like a team that lacks creativity, and that's what we are. And then suddenly we find it, and it's almost more frustrating that they can turn it on when they want to. If we were just not good enough and not able to do it, you'd be annoyed, but you kind of understand it to a certain extent. But we are able, they are able. So let's see that from minute one.
It seems to me like a core group of those players, they almost lack the ability to figure things out on their own in game and solve problems in game. They almost need to get in at half time and have the manager sit them down and reset things or change things tactically before they can start coming out and playing a bit. The best teams that, for example, if you go back to what was my second spell, that we had a core group of players there that if things weren't going well, they would pull the team together and say, right, keep it tight for 15 minutes, you do this, you do that. They would solve tactical problems on their own in game without relying on the manager pulling them in and showing them what to do, essentially.
It's like for me, they're all waiting for somebody else to do it, somebody else to make something happen. We don't have somebody at this minute in time that's going to grab the game by a scruff of the neck and make something happen. And I'm looking at the likes of your Cantwell's in there for that. That's essentially what he's brought in to do. He's brought in to go in there and win games, dictate a tempo in a game for Rangers, and make something happen. And for me, he doesn't do that regularly enough. And that's why I think we need a real shift in terms of, again, come back to that word mentality. But I think we need more leadership throughout the team. We need a willingness to put yourself there, take a risk. It's okay. You'll make a mistake, whatever, lose the ball, but we need to risk the ball more than taking the easy option and waiting for, I'll wait and he'll do it, or he'll do it, or he'll do it. Go there and make it happen. Kind of like what Lawrence did with his goal there a couple of weeks ago. It totally escapes me who it was against. Kelly, was it? And he just grabbed the game, and he made it happen. And I'm not saying you're going to do that every time you're going to blast the ball in the net like that, but he risked it, and it paid off. And okay, it might not have, but at the end of the day, it's how you win games. It's how you win trophies.
Yeah, definitely. Before we go to talk about the second half, let me give a shout out to our friends over at Football Prizes. They are currently running a competition to win a Brian Laudrup signed and framed boot. For more information on how to enter, please visit footballprizes.co.uk/product/Laudrup-3. And how I wish we had a player of Brian Laudrup's quality in the current squad. Maybe the season would have turned out a bit differently. On the second half, Ben, I'm watching through performance, you've got to say. Desmond gets the equaliser and Todd Cantwell pushes in front with one of the goals of the season. To be honest, it's kind of a shame they've already done the goal of the season. Then awards, and Scott Wright grabs 2 goals towards the end. First question is, did Cantwell mean that?
No, not a chance in this earth.
No. I watched it back, and I'll be honest, I wasn't sure. I've not seen comments from him if he said whether he meant it or not. I'm going to imagine he claimed he meant it, but it was definitely a one for the goal of the season contender. I thought his celebration was kind of interesting. I don't know if he was trying to make a bit of a point with the celebration or not. There's obviously speculation around his future in terms of whether he'll be here next season or not. Where do you stand on Cantwell? For me, he's a phenomenal player on his day, but his day's just not often enough.
Yeah, I asked myself the question, and I put Lawrence into this bracket as well, is Cantwell or Lawrence the player that's going to make the difference, is going to win us the league and do it on a consistent basis? No. That's the answer for me. Good player on his day, but as you've said, his day hasn't been often enough. Again, it seems to happen more when the pressure's off. And yeah, I think the fact that he's not getting into the team regularly in the big games says what the manager thinks. And I would be kind of inclined to agree. Is he a bad player to have about the place? No. He's an option, but I would imagine, without knowing, that he's on relatively high wages. So if a decent offer come in, we're going to have to try and find some money, to reinvest in the squad this summer. And if money came in for Cantwell, I would be saying yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of a similar mind, to be honest. I just think for the kind of wages that he'll be on, we need more in terms of consistency and output for that kind of spend. In terms of the second half performance overall, does that give you some hope going into the cup final?
It's yes, it does. But it's something that I know we can produce performances like that. It's kind of hard overhead, because when my head says we played them 4 times this season and haven't looked near it really most of the time. Can we beat them? I think, yeah, we can beat them. There's no doubt about that. But it's will we turn up? And when we get those chances in the big games, do we have somebody up front that is going to consistently put the ball in the net? And it's hard to make a case for yes. Dessers is 22 goals, and it's ridiculous to be saying this, but 22 goals and he's still not good enough. It's a tricky one. I have confidence, again, if we can get back a couple of players, if we can get Asima, some minutes in his legs this weekend and get him, on his game. I've no doubt we can, but it's also, can we cut out the mistakes, and can we take the chances? Do we have a chance? Yes. I'm nervous, put it that way.
Yeah, I'm kind of much the same mind as you, to be honest. Once we got ourselves in front on Tuesday night, we saw the introduction of a couple of academy players, Cole McKinnon and Robbie Fraser, came on. How do you think they handled themselves?
Well, I've been encouraged with Cole McKinnon in all that we've seen in this season, actually. And he's played in important games too, in Europe as well. So he is definitely one that I would like to see more of. And he came on there and he was sort of playing due to the injuries and things like that. He was playing more out of position, but he equipped himself well. Robbie Fraser was an interesting one because in the limited times, I must admit, but in the times that I've seen him for the B team, I have felt that he's a decent player, but he's not a player that's going to make it at Rangers. However, he equipped himself well. I felt that he got forward really well, put a couple of decent balls in, and worked hard. So he's done himself no harm, especially given that we are going to be looking for a left back. Certainly, I wouldn't expect him to be a starting left back, but we're certainly looking for somebody to replace Borna. Is he the answer? I would err on probably not, but he's done well, and I would like to see him tomorrow.
Yeah, I was impressed with him. I actually think if we're keeping Yilmaz and he's going to be the starting left back, if Robbie Fraser can play backup, then that could potentially save us some money that we could spend elsewhere in the squad. Was my thinking along that one. He's maybe not ready to step in as number one left back yet, but if he's good enough to be backup to Ridvan for next season, then that potentially saves us some money to spend on other areas of the team.
No, definitely, and I think that's been important, and it was important last year. It was like ridiculously last year there was, and I was skeptical too of the likes of Jack Butland, coming in, but I was thinking to myself, okay, he'll do for a year, because I didn't think he would do as well as he did. Let's be honest. He's on a free, and we need to spend money elsewhere, so it kind of comes into that sort of thing. But also, one thing that I've learned this year is I'll be honest, having seen Ross McCausland for the B team and then at youth level for Northern Ireland, I felt Ross McCausland will have a good career as a decent player, but I didn't think he was going to be good enough to be a Rangers player. And that's not by any means guaranteed now that he is. However, giving him a run, he's proved that he has something and he can do something. And we only know with some of these players by giving them a chance. So, let's give it a go.
Yeah, and hopefully tomorrow is an opportunity to give some more of them a chance. Now, the manager after the game seemed to be more critical in his press conference than what we've seen previously. I'm thinking about, after the draw at Dundee, he wasn't particularly critical and he kind of got back criticism for not being as critical as people wanted him to be. But he made a point of talking about how poor we were off the ball and saying, like, if these players want to play at Rangers, they need to do the off the ball side as well as the on the ball side for 90 minutes. If you're at a lesser club, you can potentially get away with being a bit lax. Now, that's quite a criticism I find the manager to say after a game. And he also made mention of the fact that I think it's probably the first time that he's made mention about the need for a rebuild. Is this him starting to lay the foundations for next season and move away from protecting the players?
Absolutely. I mean, his comments after that draw with Dundee were baffling to a certain extent. But the more you thought about it, you thought, right, we're still in a title race. He has to get something out of these players. So what is gained by being honest and saying what he saw and we all saw, and we know and he now knows, is that quite a few of these players aren't the answer and aren't good enough really. So now that the title's gone, he's being honest and he is laying the foundations for next season. And he's also, he's not deaf to the fact that he heard probably a lot of criticism of his interview after Dundee from media and from fans. And he's probably answering that in terms of saying that I do see it as it is. It makes sense why he said what he said. But yeah, he's basically sending a message out to some of the players now to say, buck up your ideas or you're not going to be here, or to others he may be just saying you're not going to be here. And he's setting standards, which is what I want and what we want. So no, I was pleased to see it, to be honest with you. one thing that I hate in football is managers, be it in whatever level or whatever league, that will just stand there and lie to the fans. I would rather a manager turn up and go, listen, we were crap today. We were not good enough. All right, maybe you might not put it as bluntly as that, but be honest, we're not stupid. Don't insult us. Tell us what you see.
Yeah, you want your managers to feel that they're watching the same game as you and they're not telling you a completely different story from what
And therefore he's being
you're
accountable
seeing.
too by doing that.
Yeah, do you think he's starting to see a lot of the problems that he would have been told about before he took the job? I remember when we were on that good run when he first came in, he kind of made reference to the fact that he was told about all these mentality issues that we had, but he wasn't seeing that. Do you think he's now seeing it and going, right, okay, maybe this is what people were warning me about?
That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier when I was saying, he kind of needed to see the problem. So obviously it would have been ideal if it would have gone on and won every game, but to fix the problems, he needs to properly see them. And this goes back to even before Bale. I remember Bale first came in and we got good results, and he was saying this team isn't as broken as people say, and then eventually found out it is partly down to him. However, this is similar. The problems were almost disguised by a decent run and a bounce and a good start, trying to impress a new manager and such. But they've reared their ugly heads, and he's well aware of it, which encourages me, because he doesn't seem one that will suffer fools and is going to hopefully address these problems.
Yeah, time will tell. After the game, there was a couple of images going around on social media of a few players appearing to say their goodbyes to the crowd after the game, mainly Roof and Borna Barisic. Now, the players who we believe won't be having their contract renewed and will be leaving, players like Roof, Barisic, Lundstrom, Ryan Jack, what legacy do they leave for you at Ibrox?
Ryan Jack, over the piece, other than injuries, has been a good servant to Rangers and has given us his all, and is a decent, more than decent player. Sadly, injuries have ruined his career with us, and now is the time. I was in favour of giving him a year this season. It just hasn't worked out because he's just not managed to get enough time on the pitch. So Borna Barisic, again, has been a good servant to the club. Don't think his performances or attitude probably have been great of late. Heads been turned from what I've seen. But over the piece, we've more than got our value from him, and again, he was a big part of that success, winning the league, in what seems a very long time ago. Roof, again, obvious thing is injuries, but again, our only title in the last 12, 13 years, whatever it is, and he played a big part in that. Again, some big moments, to think of the goal against Liège. Things like that. Roof on his day was a class above for us. His actual goals games record is very good, but is he on the pitch enough? No, he's not.
He also played a massive role in that run to Seville. He scored in extra time.
That's right.
Was that against Braga? Am I right in saying it was Braga? He scored the extra time goal.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, that's right.
So you could argue without his contribution, we might not have got to Seville as well. It's just a pity, and as we say about Jack, it's just a pity about injuries, because I think a fully fit Kemar Roof is probably still the best striker at the club.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. I'm saying that without having seen enough of Danilo. But yeah, no, I think he definitely is. I think a fully fit Kemar Roof, if there was such thing, he wouldn't be playing in the Scottish League. Because he has all the attributes and the movement and a great goal record. He is a better player than our league, if let's be honest. But he's just never on the pitch. And Lundstrom, the last one, overall disappointing. He's had flashes and he's had spells. And when Clement came in for maybe 2-3 months, I was in favour probably of giving him a contract, but the problem was he doesn't continue to do it. He had a great run to Seville, and then he had that a good spell when Clement came in, but over the piece, he's gone missing, and again, you can't ignore the fact that he's on a high wage. So I'm time to part our ways.
Yeah, for me, Lunsford's probably the most disappointing of that group because he has been available for almost all the games, and I just think his performances at times have just been way below what you would expect from any midfielder at Rangers, never mind one that's one of our highest paying, and one that came up from the English Premier League. He was a Premier League midfielder when he joined, but he's not really looked anywhere near like it for most of his Rangers career, other than maybe a 3-4 month spell on the run to Seville. But yeah, we'll see what happens at the end of the season, and who we get in to replace those players will be interesting. Now, as will always be the case, Ben, in a season where Rangers don't win the league, there's plenty of criticism and blame to go around from the squad to the manager and those in the boardroom. Now, looking at the criticism of the board in terms of the blame going around in terms of not enough investment or not investing it wisely enough and things like that, people complaining that we concentrate on other projects too much and we don't invest enough in the team in terms of looking at Edwards House and things like that. Is the criticism of the board fair, and is this now just a case of the funds must be found from somewhere and it's time for our investors to dig deep once again?
Well, the funds must be found if we're going to compete. There's no doubt about that. Or we're going to have to sell our only assets to create the funds. We don't have the guaranteed Champions League money again. The other side of the city do. There was a financial gap there, and it's gonna widen. So yes, I understand criticism to a point with the board. My biggest criticism, and I think the biggest thing that they did wrong this season, was in giving so much control to one manager, and not replacing Ross Wilson, and allowing Michael Beale to just oversee everything. We needed somebody to be running the club, to address the issues, to address the structure. I mean, one of the worst things for me is without Philippe Clement has hinted several times on the lack of fitness and preparation within the players, and for me that obviously comes down to the manager. But when the manager is in charge of everything, who's he accountable to? Who's questioning him? So I feel like if we'd have had a director of football in, or football operations, or whatever terminology you want to give to it, we may have been able to address certain situations before they had got out of hand, and before the malaise is set in, basically. So I think in allowing him to do everything, to be in control of everything, and to basically turn us into the Michael Beale show, that was negligent. We now have the director of football in, and he's had one window, although come in just before it. So this is a big window coming up for the board and for him also. But I am more confident that we are in place to do things a little bit better. When I look at, say, for example, the players that he did bring in January, Silva's not worked out, although let's be honest, on paper was a decent attempt at bringing someone in with limited resources. Cortez looked really, really good. If he's the type of player that we are managing to attract and target, then it's encouraging to me. All right, he got injured and that's unfortunate, but and Diamonde is also the profile of player that we should be bringing in. I would like to see a little bit more. I'm encouraged by him, but I would like to see a little bit more for the price range that he's in. So I feel that by giving them a chance, I know we can't accept failure over and over and over again, but I think by giving them a chance, having looked at that window, having Niels Coppin in now, I feel like we're heading in the right direction, and that is a board appointment, and so I'm trying to be optimistic in terms of that.
You mentioned giving them a chance there. Are they potentially on their last chance? We cannot have another window like we did last summer, where it just almost every signing at the start of that season was pretty much a failure, to be honest. I mean, we can't have that again, can we?
No, we can't. We can't get into that position. I mean, we can't be in the position where November we're looking. The signs have been a disaster, and we're looking to change manager again. If that happens again for the third year in a row, then you do need to look at outside of the management. You need to look at structurally and who's running the club and who is making the decisions. And there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think it's a pivotal summer coming up. I think everybody knows that, but we'll see how it plays out. On the final game of the season tomorrow at White Hearts, for all being honest, it's probably a game we could all do without, but one we need to play nonetheless. How do you expect the manager to line up then?
Yeah, it's a tough one, as we said. I expect, given his, I was expecting Ridvan again to get another 60 minutes, but given his press conference today, saying he won't start the game. I expect to see some youth. The defense, the only defense we have is probably Tav playing at right back, which you would expect anyway. I think McCrory will play, and then same centre backs and Robbie Fraser. I think we'll get a run out. Be it for maybe first half, maybe first 50, 55 minutes. Midfield, I'd like to see more minutes get into Raskin's legs. Diamonde, I would like to see get some minutes, but I would also we need him for the cup final. So don't want any more injuries. Want to see Cole McKinnon at some point again. Didn't sound like the manager was too keen on Ruth playing any part. From his comments in the press conference, he may play a little bit, but he kind of alluded to needing to check what shape he was in really. So don't see that. And again, it's about getting some minutes into SEMA. But again, not taking that risk and losing him for next week. So it's a fine line. And then splitting the right side with Scott Wright, who I must admit did well when he came on the other night, and seems to do better when he comes on as a sub. Between him and McCausland, splitting those minutes, and then again, Dessers is your only real option up front, with maybe Roof getting the last 15 or something like that. Ryan Jack, well, I'd like to see Ryan Jack maybe get a cameo at some point, just as a send off. Really, I think he deserves that. Not many of the leaving players deserve, but I feel Ryan Jack does. It's not his fault that he's been injured. He deserves it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He's got a bit of a difficult balancing act, the manager, because I'm sure he'll want to give minutes to somebody like Seema who's just come out of injury, but there's also the potential that you play him and then he and gets injured again and then you lose him for the cup final. Do you think he'd be tempted to just say to players like Seema, Balogun, Ridvan, who've all had their injury problems, to just sit this one out and we'll need you for next week?
It's funny, I feel like different players in different ways. I feel Ridvan would benefit from a little bit of time. I feel Seema would benefit from a little game time. But I feel Balogun is best just sitting where he is, and just read, particularly at his age and things like that. And it would be easier for him to pick up another injury. But I feel certain players, and particularly a player like Seema, would benefit from just a bit of game time and a bit of a run with the ball in his legs. But I'm talking last 10, 15 minutes, and that's just literally a run out and getting back in competitive field again.
Yeah. Before I get a score prediction from you, is there any youngsters that haven't played that you would like to see game time given to? I'm thinking Alex Lowry, who's been a bit of a forgotten man since he came back. I know he's been injured, but he was once heralded as the next great youth prospect, and he's getting to the point where he's going to need to break through or move on elsewhere. And also the other one I'm thinking of is John Lee Fecko. I was impressed with him in pre-season this season. He was one of the few bright sparks, and I thought he might have played on Tuesday, but I wonder if he'll be an interesting option for the manager come tomorrow.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I'd almost forgotten about him, but I was really impressed with him pre-season as well. I would like to see him at some point as well. We'll put it this way, like I've just said, I'd rather Balogun stayed just rested. So if you were making a change, if Leon King was only had 60 minutes in him, I'd rather see Fecko there. I know he can play left back as well, but I'd rather see him there, maybe at centre back. I would like to see Alex Lowry. I think it's make or break, and I know you're not going to make that assessment or decision based on half an hour or whatever in a meaningless game at the end of the season. But I think we kind of know what we can and can't get from Cantwell in that sort of position. So why not? Why not give it a go? I feel Larry, was on loan at Hearts as well, and may have something to prove there to a certain extent. So yes, I would like to see him as well. And obviously we are going to see Robbie Fraser, but I want to see him. Wanted to see him before I even knew that Ridvan wasn't able to start the game.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting lineup, for sure. Before I let you go, Ben, you got a score prediction?
I'll be an optimistic 2-2, I think, given the team that we're going to put out.
I wouldn't mind a bit of a wild one. Remember the last game 5-5
Yeah,
against Hibs a couple of years ago before Gerrard joined. That was a
yes,
bit
I
of a
do.
crazy last game of the season. I wouldn't maybe a 6-5 to Rangers. Let's
I'd
have
take
some of
that.
that last day chaos. Why not? Right, I think we'll call it time there. All that's left for me to do is thank my guest. Ben, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks very much. Enjoyed it.
All good. As well as being live tonight, the show will be available on all podcasting platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Acast, Stitcher. They'll probably be back on Sunday evening. I believe it's myself, Grant, and Alex Anderson to look back on all the action from Tynecastle. Until next time, bye for now.